afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Dropping the Gloves. I got my good friend joining us today, Al Iafrate, all the way. Where are you at now in Michigan, Al?
Plymouth,
All the way
little
from
little
Plymouth,
down
Michigan.
yonder from you.
A little bit more south, but not any worse. But
No,
still, up north is where you should be. I've been telling you for years. Come up north.
yeah, it's beautiful up there. I usually spend a week up there in Sutton's Bay with some friends every right around Labor Day. So
Well, if you come up, I'm literally a 9-iron from Sutton's Bay. The next street up is my house, Traverse
yeah,
City, Sutton's Bay. So let me know you're here. Well, listen, thanks for jumping on. I know you're busy. I know you don't like doing this because you just like to keep a private life when you're away from the spotlight. And you're in the spotlight a lot. Let's be honest. You
a
just
little
got
bit.
that personality.
Yes, people make fun of the Maple Leafs, but you have some all-star years with the Maple Leafs, and you're going to be doing stuff the rest of your life. It's a
Well,
good
talk about
thing.
that. Let's jump into it because I didn't realize you were fourth overall pick, Al. Did you know that in 1984?
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't real. I didn't. I mean, back then in the early '80s, an agent came to your house 2 or 3 weeks before the draft and said, "Hey, you're probably going to get drafted pretty high." And it's not like today where they start bird dogging
That's what I was
guys when
going
they're
to ask.
14. I
I
kind of
was going
didn't
to
know.
ask you that
Yeah,
because your draft was solid. Kirk Muller, Eddie Olchuk, Shane Corson, Gary Roberts, but then of course the Mario Lemieux drafted number one overall. So I was going to ask, did you guys? Now they do the combine, you do the press tour, so there's nothing of that. You didn't get to pal around with Mario Lemieux months before the draft at all.
no, you know, there was none of that. You just kind of were going to go to the draft. My draft was in Montreal, and everyone knew Mario was Mario.
Yeah,
Super
right.
spectacular, and it was kind of just where you were going to get drafted because guys that got drafted in the later rounds like Patrick Waugh, Brett Hull, Luke
Right?
Robitaille,
Yeah.
Gary Roberts, but he was a first rounder. But it was a pretty healthy draft. A lot of great players, a lot of Hall of Famers, guys that ended up being in the Hall of Fame. But you really had no idea. I thought it was going to be like Toronto, LA, Buffalo were all kind of picking right in that the third, fourth, fifth, sixth picks, kind of where I was
Yeah.
slotted to go.
So you show up and you have no idea where you're going. It's not like nowadays you get a pretty good idea of the top 10 because they talk to these kids, they do the interviews, they know everything about them. Like the teams just do so much investigation. Like Toronto, fourth overall, Toronto, did they come and visit you? Did they do any kind of digging on you?
I did probably like an hour interview, I guess. I guess
And
more of
that's
an
it.
interrogation type interview. But I had no idea where I was going. I just loved playing, and
Yeah.
I didn't play. I honestly didn't know I was like that good until I was probably 17 when I made the Olympic team as a junior in high school that summer. And an agent came to my house and talked to me and my parents. Ricky Curran, Rip Me Off Ricky, affectionately call him, my agent. That's his nickname. No, but he's an awesome guy. He was a great agent my whole career, and he wanted to do an interview with me and my parents, and he's talking and telling my parents how good I am and where I'm slotted and all this. My dad looks over at me and he goes, "Hey, you must be pretty good," because my dad was busy working all the time, and he never saw me play till I was a midget, till I was
No
16.
kidding.
Yeah, my mom was Mama Bear Alice. She was working the two jobs and making sure I had a ride. So it was
Yeah.
actually kind of good because I grew up, I had 10 dads, 10 moms. I was kind of like that dog that everyone loved, but by the end of the day, they were like, all right, you can have them
That's
back.
enough. Go home.
Yeah.
Was Detroit hockey strong? like it is now. Now you got Little Caesars. There's a ton of good stuff going on in that area. How was that? Because you're obviously right across the border. You can play Canadian teams whenever you want, but was it competitive or were you just like a big dude dominating everybody?
We had a powerhouse team, CompuWare,
Ah, yep.
and Little Caesars was the other powerhouse team. And we'd play each other, and that was really the only competition around here. So we were always in all the tournaments in Ottawa, Toronto, Niagara Falls, uh, Hull, Quebec, out
Yeah.
west. We were always going for the stiffest competition to
Well,
keep
yeah.
evolving and getting better as a team and as players.
Yeah. So you get drafted out and you go number 4 overall. You know you're making the team right out of camp. Like, because Toronto at that time, let's be honest, not great, right? You show up and it's like, who do they got on defense? They got Bjorn Solming, Hall of Famer. You got Jim Benning. Then not really anybody else. So how was that going from Windsor Spitfires? You're playing in the hockey mecca, Toronto. It's got to be a kind of a culture shock, no?
Oh yeah, I had no idea what I was in store for. It was, you know, growing up in Detroit, and no disrespect, but self-proclaimed hockey town. I call it Red Wing Town. It's, for most of your career and pretty much the last 75% of my career, Detroit was the best team in the world, right? They were the
Mm-hmm.
standard that everyone was chasing to be, and rightfully so, with, Steve Eiserman and the rest of the cast, and the way they drafted players and the systematic approach they had to the style of play that they never wavered from, that was going to win, and they did. And people try to mimic it, but you got to have the personnel to mimic the platform, right? And that's
Yep.
where I think a lot of teams get lost, but showing up in Toronto as an 18-year-old wasn't like selfies and everyone's all lovey-dovey. It was like you were taking some guy's job, and I was one of the when I came in, there wasn't a ton of Americans in the league. There was probably less than 50.
Oh,
So
no kidding.
yeah, so coming into the league, it was you got to prove yourself that you're worthy of being in the Wolf Pack, and I did my best. I learned on the job, because I basically went from midget hockey to the U.S. national team for 5 months to being drafted and then the NHL. I
That's
played
crazy, eh?
I played 12 games of junior after the Olympics. Skipped my senior year at high school. Did correspondence courses, because a couple of the coaches were professors and teachers. So it was fast track, and growing pains for me and the team. With an 18-year-old defenseman that basically thought hockey was an end-to-end rush every time you're on the ice. That's the kind of the way I always kind of played the game. I liked being a defenseman for the opening face-off and then a rover for the rest of the game. But it was an awesome experience. I wouldn't trade it in for the world. It was
Well,
great
no
to be
kidding.
drafted by a Canadian team, because being an American guy, you really understand the fabric of the sport is Canadian. No, you know, Americans can argue that point with me, but like the passion for hockey in Canada is unbelievable, and it's
So did you like that? Because don't take offense to this. I'll try to frame it in a good light. You don't seem like a guy who everything is end all be all hockey. Because when I talk to you and when I hang around with you, have a beer with you, whatever, we spend a lot of time together. You get what hockey is. It's a game. You're here to have fun. We try our tail off when we're on the ice, but it's not the end of the world. That's the kind of the sense I get. But was it too much going to Toronto? It's just I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Al, but I don't know what I'm trying to say here. But you just seem like a super chill guy going into that environment. Were they like? Was it pressure? Like you're our 4th overall pick. We're a bad team. We need you to be the best player on the ice.
luckily for me, I had Boreas Salming as
Yeah.
someone that I idolized growing up. He was the guy when I was 13, 14. Every night I'd listen to the radio, listen to the Maple Leafs hockey night in Canada back then. you could watch it on Wednesdays and Saturdays. It was on TV.
Hmm.
So Channel 9. And, Boria was the guy. And then, a couple years later, it was Ray Bork. And, you know, I got to be partners with two of the guys that I loved as defensemen growing up. So lucky me. But back to Toronto,
Lucky me.
yeah. So going back to Toronto, it was like I am pretty laid back, chill guy, but I've got a switch where I can, go ballistic for sure. But I think that was part of the growing pains where, I was, an internally intense guy where,
Yeah.
just because I'm not vocal or, bouncing around a room doesn't mean that I'm not focused or, how that goes. People can,
100%. Well,
people
sometimes
can
it's the
be
guys who are the
misread.
loudest who are it's the quiet guys who are usually the most focused and prepared.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, I was that guy that I was like the most focused guy, but I loved hockey. I wanted to be the best I could be. I tried to do all the things that would help me become, an asset for whatever team I was playing on. And, but being in Toronto, I think, I think it was the right place for me, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because it helped me realize the magnitude of, what I have accomplished. Because I was kind of a freak of nature, man. Like growing up, whether it was on foot in a swimming pool. I mean, you can't tell now. You've only seen me play since I was like 50. So, but like on foot in a pool, whatever sport it was, I was like a rocket. Like my whole game was always speed and shooting. Speed and shooting, power and
Yeah.
shooting. And, so when you have speed as, an asset, that's going to kick open a door fast. I know now there's all the analytics and the hockey sense aspect of it and all that. And they're all valid and they're all equally as important as the other. You throw the guy's heart in there, as you well know, the guy with a huge
Hmm.
heart. Um, there's so many factors in what makes up an athlete. You know, whether a guy like Pavel Datsuk ever gets nervous or scared, we'll never know. You know what I mean? No one will ever
Yeah.
know. Or
Yeah.
Mario Lemieux, whether he gets butterflies or is nervous before a game, we'll never know. And I think the people that seem to have the biggest, opinion on that are the ones that never played the game. Oh, guys that get nervous, you can't be nervous for it. Like, it's the people that never played are the ones that are the most vocal about it. You never hear, guys like Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux talk about a guy being nervous or anything because they're just in another stratosphere. And whether those things affect the ultimate players or not, we'll never know.
Well,
But
let me ask you about being affected because you say like you're a freak athlete. You're a big dude. Like you're 6'3", 6'4", 230, 240. Like that's a lot of meat to move around. You're the modern like before Dustin Bufflin, that was you. It sounds like. Did you ever have coaches or people say that's not what we need from you? That's not what we want. Because in that
oh,
age it was like off the glass and away we go, stay home defenseman.
I'm so glad you asked that question because the era of hockey I lived in was no free agency. After 10 years or after 10 years, you could be an unrestricted free agent, but there was compensation. And if you signed for market value, the compensation was going to be 5 first round picks. So, you know, you can
Oh
quote me on
wow.
this. It was 100% collusion. Like guys couldn't move. And you were locked up. And depending on how the team developed players or how you developed yourself or whether you got traded or not, a lot of those factors were gonna be a determining factor on how you develop because you were kind of there on a team that drafted you and
Yeah.
whether you were being taught the right way or what was most important. But to answer your question, I played in the era where teams spent 75% of the time trying to turn guys that they had into something they weren't. It's like rather than, okay, this guy is 100% finesse, all offense. We've got that aspect of our game covered. We need that. We need a line of that. He's our guy. Let's nourish this flower and pour water on it and fertilizer. But it was like 80% of my time, my first 5, 6 years, it was trying to get beaten into being something that I wasn't, where it was rather than just let this guy fly and do his thing. Um, that was like the oddity.
So is that why your goals go from 5, 8, 9, and all of a sudden 22? Was that the year where they finally just said, "Shit, we're not going to be able to control this guy. Like, just let him go"?
I think, yeah, because, you know, after my 4th year is when I started getting whatever 15 to 25 goals a year
Yeah,
pretty consistently. And I was just like, I think I was growing as a person and getting more confident. And I was like, you know what? If you're the best player on the ice, what are they going to say? And you're helping your team win and your team is achieving success, and then as my years got later in Toronto, we drafted Luke Richardson, Vince Stamford, Wendell Clark right after me, Daniel Marois. We drafted guys, made trades for Eddie Olczyk, stuff like that. Got good players in there, Tom Curvers. We had a great power play near the end of my stint in Toronto, and then, I got traded to Washington, and then, my game elevated to another level because I got transplanted onto a team that was already a really sound defensive team, and they were looking for a guy that what I specialized in, right?
right. And then they just
So
let you go. They're like bombs away.
yeah, it was great. I'd I'd come to training camp. Terry Murray would shake my hand. Did you have a good summer? I'd be like, yeah. He'd be like, all right, have a good year. Then at Christmas, he'd say, Merry Christmas. I'd be like, Merry Christmas. And then for the All-Star break, he'd be like, you're having a great year. You made the All-Star team again. I'd be like, yep, thanks.
And for those of you who don't
So
know,
it was,
Terry Murray was the head coach of the team. So
yeah, so it was great. It was like they just let me do my thing. They were probably like, okay, leave this guy alone,
so
so
which is funny. It kind of leads into my next question. When I do an interview, I do a little research. I know you personally, so I don't have to do too much research, but I'm Googling Al Iafrate. And it comes up, well, obviously the mullet, the hardest shot, the hair,
Skullet. It's a skullet.
Skullet, excuse me, Skullet.
A
And then it
balding
goes
mullet is a
the
skullet.
nickname, the planet.
Anybody can wear a man bun. Real dudes wear skullets.
Well, okay, let's stay on that. So you're in Washington, and what's going through your head where you have this patch of hair at the front, then a huge bald spot out, and then like massive mullet out
There
the
was no
back. So
bald spot.
Al, I can show you a picture I have that I just saw of you doing the hardest shot, and there's a huge like horseshoe bald
I
spot
couldn't
from the
see
hair
it.
in the middle. Oh, I got it now. That's why I'm so tall. You can't see mine, but it was there. What was the reasoning behind that hairstyle? You let's
Oh,
just break that down.
I think it was like a Samson thing. It was like, fuck, I can't cut my hair, man. I won't be able to shoot hard or skate fast, so I'm just gonna try and pretend like I'm not going bald.
Did you know it was getting back then? Because that was the early '90s. Were people coming up to you like, "Hey, people are talking about your hair," or was that a later on thing?
No, I think people were people didn't want to bother me because I was playing great. They were like, all right, let this weirdo do his thing.
I've never seen a hairstyle like it at all. Like it was, well, I guess I could say Craig Berube had a little bit of a hairstyle like that too, but it's very hard to pull off, and you did it. Did you have the motorcycle back then, cruising around Washington with the Skullet?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So I've heard
cruising
stories,
around
and
on the
we've talked.
bike with the Skullet.
Is this
For
true?
sure.
Where you're smoking darts during the game between periods in the hallway? Well, tell me about that because it's a different era back then.
Oh, that's funny. We were in Dallas, and like all buildings by the late '90s were non-smoking, and I'd gear right down in between periods, like right down to the birthday suit.
Okay.
walking around with my skates on, and I'm in the hallway smoking a dart in this.
In in your birthday suit with a
Oh
towel
yeah,
on, hopefully.
no, I don't think so. And then one of the I guess I don't know what you'd call them, arena like
Usher, attendant, or
ushers,
something.
attendants are like, sir, sir, and I'm like, what? She's like, there's no
Oh,
smoking in
she.
here. I'm thinking, really? I'm naked, but there's no smoking, and that's all they're worried about. It's kind of funny. Guess you had to be there.
But like that's not normal. Like guys, was that the norm? Because listen, I my first team, my coach was Mario Tremblay, Jacques Lemaire, and so they'd be hacking darts between periods. But that was the coaches. Was that a normal thing for guys? Like just okay, period's over, let's go, fire one down, or was that just you?
Oh no, my rookie year. I think
Yeah.
at my rookie year, I'm pretty sure at the end of a period, no one was worried about if they were going out for the last shift. They were all jockeying for position at the end of the bench to the tunnel to get to the bathroom quickest so they could hack a dart down. They were positioning for intermission for a dart. Well,
Everybody's
and
jumping off
there
the
was
ice.
some worry. There was guys that wanted to play too.
But just just compare that to these days where now it's like, have you think hockey it's lost its personality a little bit? And not that you guys were publicized, but hockey used to have that certain persona of just like good old boys, like they're tough as nails, and that's what you did. And now it's just like guys are positioned and you get a protein shake and you get a rub down and a massage between periods. It's completely different now.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely different, but it's the evolution of the sport which is needed, right?
Yeah.
I can sit here and say, oh, when I played, I mean, I mean, when I played, I watched the game on the TV the other day. It was like a flashback to the mid '90s, you know, conference championship game,
Yeah.
and it was like after every fucking whistle in someone's zone, if there was a whistle in someone's zone, there was like a 50-second to a minute wrestling match in front of the net. The guy would spray the goalie. And then you're on the blue line. You're like, should I go in there? Oh, their guy went down deep. I got to get in there too. And then you'd go in there and everyone's wrestling around. Then I was like, man, it was so physically tiring playing in those games because, as you know, like grappling someone and trying to move 200 pounds when they're a world class athlete,
Oh
at
yeah.
the top
It's
of the
tough.
sport. It's like that is physically exhausting, but it was like every single whistle.
That's
There'd be
so
the guy
funny.
that'd come in and chop the goalie, and it was just like non-stop. And I was like, man, that was so exhausting. But watching the game today, it's like I could sit here and say, oh, there's not the hitting, there's not that, but
It's
believe
entertaining.
believe it. The
Yeah.
teams the teams that play that style of game win. Like you can go back to the 50s, 60s, the teams that are the toughest overall team,
Yeah.
every dynasty are like the Oilers of the 80s, the Islanders of the late 70s, 80s, toughest team. Um, you know what I mean? The Anaheim Mighty Ducks, toughest team. The Red
Look at
Wings, one of the
Florida
toughest
now.
teams. Florida,
Yeah.
one of the toughest teams. And toughness doesn't always mean fighting. It means
Yep.
playing hurt, taking a huge hit, sacrificing an injury to make a play. All those different aspects of what toughness is, the outsider just looks at, oh, this guy only had 5 fighting majors. He wasn't tough, but I can tell you some of the toughest guys you play against were guys that really didn't fight a lot.
Well, Al, it's funny you mentioned that because listen. You're not a small guy. You talk about all the scrums. I was looking at your stats. You get a ton of pims. 180, 169, 124, 135, 143. Like a lot of pims in your career. And I'm like, well, he must have been fighting a lot. Then I go to your fights record, 1, 1, 1, 1. You had a year with 8, but then back to 1, 1, 2, 3. What were you getting all the PIMS for if you're not getting fighting majors? Because listen,
Uh,
the year you got 180, you had one fight, Al. One
oh,
fight, and you had 180 penalty minutes.
I think that year I got the Jack the Gripper award. They used to have this thing called the Jack the Gripper award for most holding penalties. I think I won it. I think I won it in 2 months. Bad refereeing.
There's no way you're getting 180 minutes of penalties with minors. He gets 90 penalties.
There'd be the odd. I always tried to make it so it was an odd number. You know, so everyone would be like, "Oh, look at that, 175 fighting or 175 minutes." No, I would fight.
Okay, what's been a killer?
Like if someone chopped my goalie, or if someone ran my partner or a teammate, and I was the guy on the ice, I would fight. But not a lot of guys came after me. There was certain guys that would, come after me.
Yeah.
But I always, all my fights were against the toughest guys, though. I will say that.
I did say that. You're fighting the Craig Berubis of the world. You're fighting
I fought
huge
the Berubis,
guys.
the Probies, the Steve Smiths, the Rick Tockets. I fought
some legit guys.
Yeah. I mean, I was strong enough where, I could tie a guy up and get some body position and get my face away from a cement hand. And then, like the guys and Berube ended up. I love Craig Berube. I was one of the happiest guys in the world when he got hired by Toronto because he always used to come after me in Philly when I was in Wash, and then he got traded to Wash, and we ended up driving to the rink together my last year.
That's funny.
That I was a Capital, which was his first year, but he would always be like, "Iafrate, let's go," and I'd be like, "What do you mean, let's go?" I'm like, "I'm going to get the puck and go end to end, and you're not going to catch me." "Oh, I'm going to fucking kill you, Iafrate." And then I did fight him finally, and he's like, "Let's go, let's throw him, let go." I'm like, "You're the tough guy, man. Get loose. You throw him. You're the tough guy."
You get loose.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's awesome. So you mentioned moving around Toronto to Washington, Boston, San Jose. What's the highlight of your career? And we'll touch on the AllStar Game and the hard shots hopefully in a little bit, but just as a player, you've scored a ton of goals, you've been on great teams, you've been around great players. Is there a few moments where you look back like that was the tops, man?
I really want to say just because I didn't, like you said earlier, I didn't have this manifestation of I'm going to be a pro hockey player when I was 6 years old, and then everything in my life was around that. I'd watch a soccer game and I'd be like, I'm going to be Pele. I want to be Pele today. And then I'd watch a baseball game, and then I was like, I'm going to be Pete Rose, man. I'm going to get a hit every time I'm up and never get an error. And then I'd be like, I'm going to be Herschel Walker, man. I play football. I'm going to run faster, and no one's going to tackle. It's like every day, I guess I had this vision of I wanted to be a great athlete, but it was never just hockey.
Yeah.
It was all the sports, and I guess that is kind of a manifestation in a roundabout way, where I was always, riding my bike on Friday night when I was in 9th grade, when everyone else was going to parties, all that.
No, I mean when you were in the show, Al. What was your greatest memory when you were in the show playing for these Leafs and Capitals?
I'm building up to the story.
Okay. Oh, you're okay. You're putting layers to this. All right. Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I didn't win a Stanley Cup. I was on teams that 3 years in a row I lost to the team that won the cup, and two there in Pittsburgh, and then one with Boston. And it was like the team that wins the cup is the best team. They're great. Everyone else is just really good. Because what goes into it, as you know, having played, it's really hard to explain to somebody who hasn't played a full NHL season, then a round of playoffs or rounds of playoffs. After You know, when I was playing, you'd play 10 or 12 exhibition games some years when
Phew.
I first started.
Yeah.
So, like, what goes into it, the intangibles and how everything has to line up with injuries and trades and getting the right personnel. It's just so, everything has to be precise and dialed in for it to happen. Um, you know, I just think that for me, it was arriving, you know, like the All-Star games, those were
This is a
great.
hell of a build-up, Al. I'm waiting for the payoff here.
The All-Star games were great. Um, I would say it was before I was ever a pro
Okay.
playing in the Olympics when it
Ah.
was all amateurs, you know, against the big Russian red
So that was
machine.
83, 84.
Yeah.
After they had just won in 1980. So what was the hype the same as it was in Lake Placid?
Oh, yeah. The hype on us was huge. And we had played Canada like 11 times, you know, touring around the world,
Yep.
playing them in
Yep.
Alaska, playing them in Finland, blah, 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 during the touring before. And we beat them like 9 out of 11 times. And then for us to get to the medal round, they were in our pool and we lost to them.
Oh no.
You know, they had a good team. We had a good team, but we lost to them. And it didn't really matter because they went to the medal round, and I don't know if they scored a goal because that's when the Czechs and the Russians and the Swedes were powerhouse because,
Yeah.
you know, we were amateurs and they were amateurs, but kind of not.
How does that work? I always thought of that when I was watching the Miracle movie. I just watched it last week actually with the kids. So did you just take like 3 months off of that year or 4 months and tour around and just forget about life? Because there had to be college guys on your team, right?
Oh yeah, we set up shop like home base was Minneapolis, and
Okay.
that's like where ground zero was. And then you'd go on like a 3 week road trip and play all the CHL teams. Then you'd come back, train for a week or two. Then you'd go on a 3 or 4 week tour playing all the college teams.
But you're with the Windsor Spitfires at this time, right?
No,
So,
I mean
but
I was drafted. I was drafted, but I wasn't playing with them. I got drafted, and then I made that team, and they said, "Well, when you're done touring, then play junior after the Olympics."
okay, so they let you go and just go play. And that all the college players did that too. They just paused their personal teams.
Yes, because we
Huh.
started in August, and then
Okay.
all the way to like right now until the middle of February of the Olympics, and then after that I went to play junior.
And where were the Olympics that year?
They were in Sarajevo, which is gone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Bosnia Herzegovina
it
area.
wasn't like the Olympic villages now where it's like party central. It was
Yeah, because
it was like you left to go to your event and then you came back to your dorm and you were with a bunch of hockey players. They were
so
on
you
your
didn't get
team.
to pal around with anybody else, like no other sports or anything?
Um, you could go to events, but there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot of palling around. Or maybe my mindset was I wasn't in a palling around mood because we lost the first game of the Olympics to the Canadians and they were in our pool. And
Yep.
basically it was going to come down to, you know, there was 4 pools and whoever won their pool went to the medal round, and
Yeah.
it didn't look like they were going to lose to any of the other teams because we were the top 2 teams.
Ah, that's funny. That's funny. All right, let's talk about the All-Star game because you mentioned highlights. Obviously, an All-Star as well, just like you. What?
That's right.
Listen, you're the hardest shot guy, Al. Like I don't care what anybody says because the sticks they give you like a huge advantage. You're using wood sticks. Hours of training, I'm guessing you put into your shot. Hundreds and thousands of hours working in the backyard on the ice, getting that 105-mile-an-hour shot, or was it just a natural gift because you're a freak athlete?
Um, I think it was a combination of both, but I didn't really. I worked on my shot, like the snappers and um, wrist shot, all growing up. Like I was really into that. working on that, and I think that developed some good, tendon, wrist strength, forearms, all that stuff. And I really worked on my technique, transferring the body weight
Yeah.
off of my back leg, exploding. Because when I was in my prime, when I'd go to shoot a puck, I would take off like I was, in the fastest skater race at the AllStar Game.
Well, that probably helped a ton as your speed. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was a bigger guy, and I was always in the fastest skater as well at the AllStar Games. But that's definitely an advantage to be big and fast, and you're taking a slap shot. But when I got to training camp my rookie year, it was funny because Ken Reggett and I were roommates, and after practice, I would stay out on the ice and for whatever, an hour, because there was no, in training camp, there was no restrictions on how long the guys can be on the rink from the Players Association or anything like that. Back when the Players Association back then was your rep would call you and say, all right, they're going to call you about a vote. You're saying no. Like, well, what are we voting on? They're like, don't worry about it. You're saying no. Or they'd say you're saying yes. And that was the end of it. It'd be like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
But the shooting, Ken Reggett, after practice one day, I'm hammering pucks as hard as I can. And he's like, you were a fucking first round pick? He takes his helmet off, takes his gloves off, puts his hands behind his back. And I'm ripping clappers as hard as I can. And he's like kick saving them with his chest, stuff like that. So I was like, I want to shoot harder. This is kind of embarrassing.
Oh, no kidding. So he was just mocking you. I thought you were going to say you weren't hitting the net or something.
No, he was like saying, you don't shoot hard. It's kind of funny.
And so what did you do? This is your first year in the NHL.
Yeah. I just got dialed into my stick, became a stick craftsman, making the ultimate curve for a one-timer, always messing with my sticks, shaping them, changing stiffness, changing shaft size, working on how my hand slides when I take a slap shot, because my bottom hand is never consistently in one place. Like even in a slap shot, my hand is sliding up and down and doesn't really grasp the stick hard until the moment of contact. When I've followed through, that's when I'll clamp down and leverage the stick to use the stick. But Ken Reggett, my roomie, was making fun of me, and that kind of got me a little motivated, where I was like, man, I got to shoot the puck harder than this. This is kind of stupid. He's got his gloves and his helmet off. He's not worried about the shot.
And then fast forward 5 years later, you rip a 105 in the All-Star Game, and everybody goes berserk. And that is the Iafrate everybody's known about. And it's all thanks to Ken Reggett giving you a hard time.
That's right, Mikey, Kenny Reggett. Yeah, but when I got to at that moment in time, when I got to that All-Star Game, I figured I knew I had a good chance. I knew it was between me and Al McInnes and me. And what I really wanted to win was the fastest skater, because that was the first ever skills contest at 90. It was 1990 in Pittsburgh, that All-Star Game. Yeah. And I wanted to win that. But there was a different scenario where it's they don't do the time for one lap. It was a speed trap where they trapped your miles per hour through the neutral zone. So you'd start at the red line, and then as you came around the net, they did a speed trap from blue line to blue line.
Yeah.
Capture your time. And Mike Gartner beat me, which, he's definitely one of the greatest skaters ever. But I knew I was going to have a good chance with the shot, because I was a fast skater and I was scoring a lot of goals at the time, and I was blowing them by goalies. So I figured, all right, this thing must be moving pretty good.
Hell yeah. That's cool, man, Al. I appreciate that, because I had a terrible shot for a tall guy. I watched Chara. He's ripping him 106, and I barely got to 100. I think my max is like 101, 100. But for my size, I should have just been bombing them with the sticks that I have. You kidding me? My stiffness, I had a 130 flex. I should have just been ripping them. Was that my problem? Too stiff of a stick?
Stiff. Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
Not enough whip. Damn it. If I would have had you training me, I would have been a lot better. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, you probably would have been.
So what you're such a prick. So what's next for Al? You're the coolest guy ever. How do you not work for a team? You see all these teams, they got the ambassadors, they got this, they got that. Why doesn't Toronto just have you at the rink all the time? Just around the guys, shaking hands, kissing babies.
That's a good question.
You're the best guy ever.
Oh, that's nice of you, John. I don't know. I just try to. I don't know why, but I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
I don't know.
because I haven't.
There's some
really,
questions that don't have answers.
Yeah, and I mean, I really have never campaigned to try and do that. I've never like expressed a big interest to do that. I think a lot of it is because, I feel like when I retired, I think you kind of got to start edging your way
early.
in. You got to start trying to facilitate a transfer into the management side of things.
Right away.
Where I was always a guy that was like a pro players association. I was like the anti-management guy. Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
But like they knew who I was. They knew I was kind of a guy who who went to the beat of his own drummer, but still was within the guidelines and being a respectful teammate, employee, and all that. But I definitely kind of did my own thing because I was like, hey man.
Well, we lost Iafrate, looks like. But anyways, that was a great call from Al. I appreciate him being on. I'll call him in a second and say no worries about that. But thank you, everybody, for listening. I appreciate the support, and we will be back next week. Have a good weekend, everybody. Cheers.